I never thought I'd be the kind of guy who'd remember a bouncer's face. But Marcus, I remembered everything about Marcus. The way his jaw tensed when he checked IDs, the small scar above his left eyebrow, how his eyes would soften for just a second when someone made him laugh. I'd been going to the Velvet Room every Friday for 3 months straight, and every single time he'd wave me through without charging the cover. At first I thought it was random luck. Then I convinced myself maybe I just looked like someone who belonged there. But the truth I was too scared to admit even to myself, was that Marcus was letting me in free because he wanted to see me. The first time I walked up to that club, I was a mess. My best friend Tyler had just moved across the country for a job. My ex had started posting pictures with someone new, and I was drowning in the kind of loneliness that makes you do stupid things at 2 in the morning. I wasn't even sure why I picked the Velvet Room. It was this low-key gay bar downtown. Nothing fancy, just a place where guys could be themselves without the pressure of those massive circuit party clubs. The bass was always too loud, the drinks were always too strong, and somehow that felt exactly right. Marcus was working the door that first night. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with dark skin that seemed to glow under the neon lights. He wore this simple black t-shirt that hugged his chest and arms in a way that made my mouth go dry. When I handed him my ID, our fingers touched for half a second, and I swear I felt electricity shoot up my arm. He looked at my license, then at my face, then back at the license. A slow smile spread across his lips. "First time here?" he asked, his voice deeper than I expected. "Yeah," I managed to say, trying to sound more confident than I felt. Is it a good night?" "It's about to be," he said, and handed back my ID. "No cover for you tonight. Welcome to the Velvet Room." I stood there like an idiot for probably 3 seconds too long before mumbling thanks and walking inside. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear the music. Did he just flirt with me? Was I reading too much into it? I spent the whole night nursing overpriced vodka sodas and pretending not to glance back at the entrance where Marcus stood, solid and unmovable, like some kind of guardian angel in a too tight t-shirt. The second Friday, I almost didn't go back. I'd spent the entire week replaying that interaction, analyzing every word, every look, convincing myself I'd imagined the whole thing. But when Friday evening rolled around, I found myself pulling on my best jeans and the navy shirt that Tyler once said made my eyes look incredible. I told myself I was just going out, just being social, just living my life. I wasn't going back because of some bouncer who smiled at me. Except I absolutely was. Marcus was there again, standing in the same spot, and when he saw me walking up, his whole face changed. It was like watching the sun come out from behind clouds. He broke into this genuine grin that made my knees weak. "Look who came back," he said, not even reaching for my ID this time. "Didn't think I'd see you again." "Why not?" I asked, surprised by my own boldness. He shrugged, but his eyes never left mine. "Guys like you don't usually become regulars. You look like you've got better places to be." "Guys like me?" "Yeah," he said softly. "Guys who look like they're searching for something real." I didn't know what to say to that. The line behind me was getting longer, and Marcus waved me through again. No cover charge, but this time he let his hand brush against my shoulder as I passed. It was deliberate. I knew it was deliberate, and I spent another entire night inside that club, hyper-aware of his presence just beyond the door, wondering what the hell was happening to me. That became my pattern. Every Friday I'd show up around 10, and Marcus would be there. We'd exchange a few words, nothing deep, just small talk about the weather or the music or how busy the night was. But underneath those mundane conversations, something was building. Tension, attraction, possibility. I learned that he'd been working at the Velvet Room for 2 years, that he was studying for his MBA, that he had a younger sister he was crazy protective of. He learned that I worked in graphic design, that I stress-ate gummy bears, that I'd never really felt at home in my own skin until recently. Week after week, our conversations got longer. 5 minutes became 10. Marcus started taking his breaks when I'd arrive, stepping away from the door to actually talk to me. We'd stand off to the side, and he'd lean against the brick wall with his arms crossed, looking at me like I was the most interesting person he'd ever met. He told me about growing up in Atlanta, about coming out to his family when he was 17, about the year he spent trying to be someone he wasn't before finally accepting himself. I told him about my own journey, the fear and shame and eventual relief of finally admitting I was gay, about how I still sometimes felt like I was playing catch-up, learning how to exist in this identity I'd denied for so long. "You're doing better than you think," Marcus said one night, his voice gentle. "The fact that you're here, that you keep showing up, that takes courage." "It doesn't feel courageous," I admitted. "It feels terrifying." "Same thing," he said and smiled. "Courage is just being scared and doing it anyway." By the third month, I wasn't even pretending anymore. I didn't go inside the club most nights. I'd show up, talk to Marcus during his breaks, and then head home. The Velvet Room had become an excuse, a reason to see him, and I was pretty sure he knew it. The way he'd watch the street checking for me. The way his whole posture would relax when I appeared. The way he started timing his breaks perfectly to when I'd arrive. But I was also terrified. What if I was misreading everything? What if he was just being friendly? What if I made a move and ruined this thing we had, whatever it was? So I did nothing. I just kept showing up, kept talking, kept falling a little more for this beautiful man who stood at the door of a gay bar and made me feel seen in a way I'd never experienced before. Then I stopped going. Not intentionally, not at first. Work got crazy. I had a massive project deadline, the kind that requires 16-hour days and surviving on coffee and anxiety. 2 weeks went by, then 3, then a month. I'd think about Marcus sometimes, late at night when I finally collapsed into bed. I'd wonder if he noticed I wasn't coming around anymore. I'd imagine texting him, except I'd never gotten his number. We'd existed entirely in that small space outside the Velvet Room, and now I'd disappeared from it. When the project finally finished, I felt hollow. Accomplished, but hollow. I'd poured everything into work because it was easier than dealing with real life, real feelings, real fear. Tyler called me one night, and I ended up confessing everything about Marcus, about how I'd been too scared to make a move, about how I'd let work consume me as an excuse to avoid the possibility of rejection. "Dude," Tyler said, his voice crackling over the phone, "you're being an idiot. Go back. Talk to him. What's the worst that happens?" "He rejects me," I said quietly. "Okay, and? You're already not seeing him. You're already feeling like crap. At least if you try, you'll know. And honestly, from everything you've told me, I don't think he's going to reject you." Tyler was right. I knew he was right. But knowing something and doing something are completely different things. It took me another week to work up the courage, another week of imagining scenarios, rehearsing what I might say, trying to prepare myself for every possible outcome. Finally, on a Friday night, I put on that navy shirt again, took a deep breath, and headed downtown. My hands were shaking as I walked up to the Velvet Room. It was almost 11, prime time, and there was a decent line of people waiting to get in. But Marcus wasn't at the door. Instead, there was a woman I didn't recognize, someone younger with purple hair and multiple facial piercings. My heart sank. Maybe he'd quit. Maybe he'd moved on. Maybe I'd waited too long. I almost turned around and left. But I'd come this far, so I got in line. When I reached the front, the woman barely glanced at me. $10 cover, she said, already holding out her hand. I paid, got my wrist stamped, and walked inside. The Velvet Room looked the same as always. Dark corners, flashing lights, bodies pressed together on the small dance floor. But it felt different without the ritual of seeing Marcus first. I felt unmoored, like I'd lost my anchor. I was about to order a drink when I heard a voice behind me. His voice. "You came back." I turned around, and there was Marcus, but he wasn't in his usual door position. He was inside the club, wearing jeans and a fitted button-down, looking somehow even more attractive than I remembered. He wasn't working. He was here as a guest. Yeah, I stammered. "I didn't see you at the door." "It's my night off," he said, stepping closer. The noise of the club faded into background static. All I could focus on was him, the way he was looking at me with an intensity that made my chest tight. "I've been coming here every Friday hoping you'd show up. Told myself I'd give it one more month, and then I'd accept that maybe you weren't coming back. You were waiting for me? My voice came out barely above a whisper. Of course I was waiting for you, Marcus said, and there was something raw in his expression, something vulnerable. Did you really not know? I let you in free every single time. I took breaks just to talk to you. I learned your patterns, your favorite shirt, the way you bite your lip when you're nervous. I've been waiting for you for months. The honesty in his words hit me like a physical force. All this time, all the second-guessing and fear and uncertainty, and he'd been feeling the same things I was feeling. He'd been just as scared, just as hopeful, just as invested in whatever was growing between us. I didn't know, I admitted. I mean, I hoped, but I didn't know. And then work got crazy and I disappeared, and I thought maybe I'd missed my chance. Marcus reached out and took my hand. His palm was warm, slightly rough, and the simple contact sent shivers through my entire body. You didn't miss anything, he said softly. I'm right here. I've been here the whole time. We stood there in the middle of that crowded club, holding hands like teenagers, and I felt something shift inside me. All the fear, all the hesitation, it didn't disappear, but it became manageable, because Marcus was looking at me like I was worth the wait, worth the risk, worth everything. I'm sorry I disappeared, I said. I got scared. Of this, of you, of how much I was starting to feel. What are you feeling? He asked, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. I took a breath. This was it. The moment of truth. The moment where I could either be brave or retreat back into safety. And I chose brave. I'm feeling like I've been showing up to this club every week for 3 months because I was falling for the bouncer who let me in free, I said. I'm feeling like I've been lying to myself about why I kept coming back. And I'm feeling terrified that I'm saying all this and maybe I'm wrong about what's happening here. Marcus pulled me closer, and suddenly we were in our own bubble, separate from the chaos around us. You're not wrong, he said. You've never been wrong. I've been waiting for you to come back so I could finally tell you that I haven't stopped thinking about you, that every Friday you didn't show up felt wrong, that I want to know everything about you, not just the things we talk about in 5-minute conversations outside a bar. Yeah? I asked, my voice shaky with hope. Yeah, he confirmed. So maybe we could start with getting out of here, go somewhere quieter where we can actually talk, maybe get coffee or food, or just walk around and figure out what this is? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Marcus smiled, that same sun-breaking-through-cloud smile from the first night, and led me toward the exit. As we passed the door where I'd first seen him, where we'd spent months circling around each other, I realized something. Sometimes courage isn't about making the grand gesture or having the perfect words. Sometimes it's just about showing up, about coming back even when you're scared, about giving someone the chance to say they've been waiting for you. We stepped out into the cool night air, and Marcus didn't let go of my hand. The city stretched out before us, full of possibility, and for the first time, in longer than I could remember, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be, with someone who saw me, really saw me, and decided I was worth waiting for. So, Marcus said as we started walking, no destination in mind. Tell me about this project that kept you away. Tell me everything. And I did. We walked and talked for hours, moving from the chaos of downtown to quieter residential streets, sharing stories and dreams and fears. We stopped at a 24-hour diner and ordered pancakes at 2 a.m, sitting across from each other in a cracked vinyl booth, and it felt like the most natural thing in the world, like we'd been doing this forever, like we'd been waiting our whole lives to find each other. When Marcus finally walked me to my apartment as the sun was starting to rise, he kissed me. It was gentle and perfect and full of promise, and when he pulled back, he said, "Same time next Friday, except maybe we skip the club and I actually take you on a proper date?" "I'd like that," I said, grinning like an idiot. "Good," he said, "because I'm done waiting. I want this. I want you, if you want me too." "I want you too," I whispered. "I've wanted you since the first night you let me in free." Marcus laughed, the sound warm and full of joy. "Then I guess it's a good thing I've been saving all those cover charges for you. Had to make sure you kept coming back." As I watched him walk away, already counting down the days until Friday, I thought about all the things I'd been afraid of. Rejection, vulnerability, opening myself up to someone who could hurt me. But standing there in the early morning light, I realized that the scariest thing would have been never trying at all, never knowing what could happen if I just showed up and let myself be seen. Marcus had been waiting for me to come back, and now, finally, I had. Total_char_count, 16,847.